Hello guys, are you confused about which is the best bank to apply for an abroad education loan? I know you have searched all over the internet and it's a very tedious process to find the best one. Today in this video, I am going to talk about the different lenders and among them which is the best bank to apply for an abroad education loan. Till date, Gyanan has helped 10,000 plus students in getting an abroad education loan. Today, we are going to help you getting the one. So stay tuned and let's start. In India, there are four kind of lenders from which you can take an abroad education. The first is public sector banks like SBI, Bank of Baroda. Second is private banks like AXIS, ICICI. Third is NBFCs like Credila, Avance. And fourth is international lenders like Prodigy Finance, Empower. Now, in this video, we are going to talk about the first two categories, public sector bank and private banks. If you want to understand what is the difference between a bank, an NBFC and international player, we have tons of videos on those topics too and would recommend you to check that out as well. So now coming to the topic for today, which is the best bank. There is no right answer. It really depends on your requirement and your profile. And in this video, I am going to give you a framework using which you can identify the best bank for an abroad education. So let's understand this framework one by one. So in this framework, there are three components that we consider. One is the loan amount that you want. Second is the rate of interest that the bank will charge, and the third is the processing. Now let's understand all of these 3 points one by one. So the loan amount obviously depends on how much is your tuition fee and whether you have living expenses or not, or whether you want the bank to fund the living expenses. Good thing is bank can fund each and every expense of your abroad education. Now rate of interest. Again, one need to understand that the rate of interest here is very sensitive. That means even the difference of 1% on a loan amount of 40 lakh rupees is a difference of 40,000 a year. Typically, students take loan for 5 to 7 years. So that is a difference of 2 to 2.8 lakh rupees in total. That's just on the basis of 1% in difference. Now different banks give different rate of interest starting from 8% to as high as 13%. So difference in the total amount can be anywhere from 2 lakh to 20 lakh rupees. The third component is the processing fee. Processing fee is the fee that bank charges for the process. Now depending on which bank you are taking the loan from, it might be charged before you submit the documents for processing or after you get the loan approval. Usually the processing fee can be fixed like 10,000 rupees or vary depending on the loan amount, that is 1 to 1.5% of the loan amount. So now we have understood the major variable in the framework. Let's understand what exactly is the framework. So the first question to be asked in the framework is whether you have the collateral or not. If you have the collateral, then the public sector bank is the best one. Public sector banks gives you loan approximately at 8% or even lower in some of the cases. And you can get up to 1.5 crore rupees. Unfortunately, public sector banks ask for the collateral. That's why if the answer to your first question is that you have the collateral, then public sector bank will be the best bank for you. Now, if you don't have the collateral, then we cannot go to public sector bank if you are applying for a loan amount greater than 7.5 lakh rupees. Now the banks can give unsecured loan up to 40 lakh rupees depending on your profile or even more at times. There are different banks, different credit policies in place depending on which they can sanction an amount for you. If a college and course lies in the list of the bank for which they gives an unsecured education loan, then you can get an unsecured education loan from the bank. If your college and course doesn't lie in the list, in that case then you will have to move to private lenders like NBFCs or international lenders. So if you don't have the collateral, then public sector bank is not an option because public sector banks ask for collateral for loan amount more than 7.5 lakh rupees. Now, without collateral, there are very few banks that gives an unsecured education. There are only couple of banks that gives loans up to 40 lakh rupees without collateral. That too when your college and course is in the list of the bank for which they give an unsecured education. So if you don't have a collateral, the first step is to check where your college or course lies in the private bank unsecured education loan list or not. If that does, then you become eligible for an unsecured loan from the private bank, and for you, then the private bank become the preferred and best lender. If you don't have a collateral and your college and course doesn't lie in the list of unsecured education loan of the private banks, then there are other options that you will have to explore, like taking an unsecured education loan from NBFC or international. So if you use this framework, you might reach out to a conclusion whether you have to take an secured education loan from a public sector bank or an unsecured education loan from private bank or an unsecured education loan from NBFCs. Here is the list of some of the popular banks as per the category. So in the public sector bank, you can find banks like SBI, Bank of Baroda. In the private sector banks, you can find banks like Axis Bank and ICICI. I hope using this framework, you would be able to reach the best bank for an abroad education loan. If you still have doubts, I would recommend you to check the loan eligibility on our website, post which you will get a call from an Gyandhan education loan counselor who will help you end-to-end getting an abroad education loan free of cost. If any roadblocks comes along the process, we will solve it for you. That's it for this video. See you next time.